just a desert, and in time it has become one of the most developing cities across the world.
60 years it's transformed from a small little fishing village to one of the most advanced cities in the world, and that all in the middle of a scorching desert. The thing about with Dubai is anything is possible. I mean, the world's your oyster. Dubai in India was truly incredible, but I can speak for Jeannie and myself in saying that we are addicted to Southeast Asia. So we've come to Singapore for a brief little stopover before going through to Vietnam.
And Singapore is the shopping destination in the world, so I've got a lot to do before we get to our flight. After our trip through India and Dubai, I thought I've just fallen in love with the East and I wanted to experience more. It's also incredibly vast that it's the East, but all of the cultures are completely different. So we went via Singapore, which is a shopping heaven. Very cute.
Cute? Oh, yours is also nice.
I absolutely love it.
I like it. I like the sleeves. It's something different.
I can't wait to go. It's going to be fascinating.
First class, darling.
Hello, how are you? Very well, thank you.
Talk about a personalised check.
We're flying to Vietnam. I actually wish we were staying in Singapore a little bit longer.
I could come to this city at least once a year just for the shopping, but I promise you, you are going to fall in love with Vietnam.
I really want to stay here for a week to do some shopping, though.
Okay, so the idea is we're flying Singapore Airlines, first class all the way. We're landing in Ho Chi Minh City, and then we're going to make our way from the south all the way to the north, ending in Hanoi. You are going to fall in love with Vietnam.
When I heard I was coming to Vietnam, I was anticipating rice paddies and just basic jungle. However, it's a completely electric country. It's got a vibe, it's got an atmosphere. It's easy to see why we're back in the East. Its organized chaos is absolutely thrilling.
This city has had such a colourful past. It's had basically 3 different names. Under Cambodia, it was called Prenocor. Under the French, they called it Saigon. And most recently, when they unified Vietnam from north and south, they called it Ho Chi Minh City. It's probably the most populated area in the whole of Indochina with close to 9 million people.
I feel so left out, I don't have a scooter.
Just run.
Ho Chi Minh City has really exceeded all my expectations because it's possibly one of the bustling and most developing cities that I've ever come across.
I would almost compare Vietnam to China, where the government is socialist but the economy is capitalist. You'd expect it to be a rundown city with hundreds and thousands and millions of people with no modern buildings. But in actual fact, every second of the day, the most beautiful modern structures are being built, just like our hotel. The hotel honestly compares to any top hotel across the world that I've ever stayed in.
When flying from west to east, your jet lag really sets in, but it's not a good idea to go to sleep. You've just got to acclimatize by getting into the time zone of the city that you're in. At the moment, it feels like I need toothpicks to keep my eyes open.
It's really hard to imagine when you look at Vietnam today and you walk through these streets that this country was ravaged by the Vietnam War, which ended in 1975. But today, it's a completely changed country. There's basically multinationals from all over the world that have invested in Vietnam. And the reason they've done that is because the labor is cheap, it's very good. People don't earn a lot here, but they live a very good life.
Now, usually a market is a market is a market, but having a look at this one, you can see why trade and industry is so important to these people. And you can get everything here, from foods, smelly fish, fabric, upholsteries, clothing, shoes, and a lot of fake handbags.
The best thing about this market is 75% of all these goods that you look around and see are made right here in Vietnam. The Vietnamese are very similar to the Chinese. They've got a very good work ethic, and everywhere you look, people are always on a mission. People are on the go, on their bikes, they're walking, they're in their shops, they're doing business. And I think the market is a good example of that.
What really stood out for me is that Vietnam is a poor country, and I likened it to a place like India. However, there was no litter. People here have got such pride that even their homes that aren't anything fabulous are clean.
And they only look towards the future. They don't worry about what happened in the past, and they've been dealt the raw end of the stick, I can tell you that. But these people have optimism, and they've got a lust for life. We're at the War Museum in the middle of Saigon. Now, this is actually quite a sad place because it's full of remnants of a very pointless war. The war began in 1959 and only ended in 1975, killing almost 4 million Vietnamese people and 60,000 US soldiers.
The story of the war has been romanticized and reenacted in Hollywood films for decades. However, the real story on the ground is a very sad truth. In my opinion, war is the biggest waste of time. I don't understand how any good can come from it. Vietnam is a perfect example of that, because to this day, there is still remnants of the war. Look, these pictures speak 1,000 words, but what was life really like in Vietnam during the war?
Those people work for Viet Cong. They torture the people, like they pump the water into the nose and they try to get information, or after beheading the local people, they took the photos with the heads of the people. They had the good feelings that when they killed the local people, they reported to the boss, to the chief commander.
But what was life like for the women and children?
When American soldiers rushed to the village, they say children 1 year old, 2 years old, they say Viet Cong, they shot down. Pregnant women, they cut the belly, or they beheaded the lady, they said Viet Cong, they killed.
And then after all of this was finished, what happened when the Americans pulled out?
After the war, when the Americans left here, of course, the communist government took the power, and it changed a lot. Especially the people who used to work for the American army during the war, and they got arrested, and they were sent to re-education camp.
I want to know about the local people in terms of living conditions. What was their day-to-day life like during the war?
Actually, when the Americans stayed here, the local had a good life if they work for American side. They say cooperation, good life. Bad cooperation, jail or die. That's it.
War's always going to be an ugly thing. And in this case, they dropped napalm on innocent civilians.
Napalm, Agent Orange, and just psychotic soldiers created so much damage in this land.
And the pictures we saw in Saigon, in the War Museum, were absolutely horrific.
The Americans fought this war with sheer brute strength and a lot of ammunition. The Vietnamese, in turn, fought the war with sheer intelligence. They built the Ho Chi tunnels.
Now we are standing in front of the entrance to enter to see the underground water well.
Locke, what did it look like during the war? Because obviously it's all exposed now.
This one was covered during the war. The Americans could not discover. When they stepped on the place, they could not find out.
But these tunnels could occupy up to 18,000 people. How did they manage to build it without the Americans finding out?
They dug the tunnels, not continuously, fighting, and at night, they dug the tunnels. The tunnel was started in 1948 to 1954, 6 years in the French War, okay? And then the American came, they continued to make the tunnel until 1968, they stopped. So total, it took 20 years, long time.
The Ho Chi tunnels are something else. I can't believe that an entire army can submerge themselves under the surface of the earth.
This is well, you can see water over there. The water is still staying here after many years.
There's still water there?
Yeah. And during the wartime, no electricity in the tunnels, huh?
It's so hot in here, I can't breathe.
Felt so uneasy and short of breath when I was in there. I don't know how they managed to sustain so many hours at a time underground.
Locke, they spent the entire time during the day below ground because the Americans were patrolling above ground. What would they do down here?
In this heat?
Because for us, few minutes we stay here, we feel a bit stuffy,
Yeah.
But for the people, they got used to it. But they didn't stay in the whole day because in early morning, the Americans went away. They could get out to take fresh air.
So you're telling me they had hospitals down here, they had kitchens down here, they had meeting rooms, it was a communication center, all of that?
Yes.
So it's basically Saigon above ground, 60 kilometers away from here, and Saigon underground?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go through that tunnel while we still have some air.
This tunnel is big enough for us.
Have they made these tunnels bigger recently?
The original size only half.
No way. Those were very, very small tunnels. Those have been enlarged to fit tourists and to accommodate visitors. They were half the size originally. I don't understand how they were able to fit through there. I feel like a mole rat.
Ah, my legs.
The bat just flew above me and it touched my glasses.
I got freaked out by a bat. Okay, I'm gonna go.
It's boiling hot down here. We can't breathe. It's terrifying.
Are you sure it was just a bat?
I swear it was a bat.
It is so dark and hot down there. The Americans tried to locate these tunnels several times. They did 2 major offensives, and what they would do is they'd fly in their B-52 bombers. They'd basically bomb this entire area, and this jungle would literally look like the surface of the moon. There were crater holes everywhere. If you take a look right over here, you can just see how destructive those bombs actually were.
You come up.
There's a fighting bunker for the gunfire.
What do you mean? So did they used to hide behind that?
Right, like a
inside?
bunker for fighting over there. Right, you
But
see?
it doesn't seem very hot.
Oh! Wow.
I'm so scared in this place.
But look how small that little hole is.
Yeah, this original size, you know?
I want to try go down
You know
there.
how to get no,
I don't
and you
think
know how to
you'll
do it?
fit.
I don't know if I'm going to fit through here.
Okay.
You're not going to fit. Your torso is too big.
Okay. And you have to do it like this. Okay.
I was having great fun at the Cu Chi tunnels until I made a stupid mistake of actually trying to climb into one.
Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness, this is claustrophobic.
Only come up in 6 minutes.
Went down, jumped up, got stuck in the middle of a jungle, and then Jeannie just decides to disappear.
Let's leave him. He wants to play. He must play.
Guys,
I'm stuck! Jeannie!
here you see it's big room, right? This one of the biggest one in the tunnels is meeting bunkers. During the war, when they had a meeting, 50 people could stay here to attend a meeting. And here's a bamboo trap. Right here, during the war, 4 corners, 4 bamboo trap. But now this one still original, stay intact for tourist attraction.
That was so terrifying. You know, when you see something and you actually feel the pain of what you're seeing. We saw these massive bamboo shoots sticking up out of the ground, which would have been booby traps set by the Vietnamese for the Americans. When you see it with your own eyes, you feel that stabbing pain.
These Americans, they're everywhere. Everywhere I look, I can hear them. I can smell them. They want to kill me. I need to find a tunnel. They're everywhere, but I can't find them. It's a jungle so dense you can't even look further than 2 meters when you're in the bush. Now can you imagine bombing going on, the fact that there's enemy fire going on everywhere. It's complete panic stations. I would never want to be stuck in the jungle of the Cu Chi tunnels in the middle of the night with a war going on.
Janez, have you completely lost your mind?
I thought you guys had left me out there on my own, and survival was the only thing left.
Janez, the war's over. Do you think you're in a scene from Tropic Thunder or something?
No, just surviving, that's all that counts.
What is your relationship like with America today?
Relationship between Vietnamese and American at the moment actually very good. I think in the next 1-2 years, they say USA will be the top investor in Vietnam because actually Vietnamese, we don't look at the past, we look at the future because this country suffers so much, you know. We want to have a better life.
Saigon has grown so much since the end of the war. It's remarkable.
They have these massive buildings and these luxurious structures all over the place, which are really significant of Saigon's Renaissance. And it's juxtaposed between the remnants of their past.
And you can see this by basically looking at the skyline of Saigon. You'll see different levels of height, and you'll see the most remarkable 5-star hotels, which is an indication of how much foreign investment is actually taking place in Vietnam.
People in Vietnam are incredibly positive. They want growth, they want development, they want positive change, which is really inspiring.
Cao Dai is a religion that was founded here in Vietnam fairly recently. It combines all the beliefs and religions in the world. The four main beliefs are Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Catholicism.
This great tower was built between 1933 and 1955, and as you can see, the dominant color is yellow, which has been taken from the Buddhist influence, representing purity. Let's go in.
I'm fascinated by religion and the fact that people from all over the world believe in something different. Cao Dai, however, is quite fascinating because it's a combination of different principles, different thoughts. It's almost, one could say, a perfect religion.
Cao Dai means highest tower, and basically it's a place of religion that is non-offensive to any other religions. And as you can see, it's all depicted over here. Taoism, of course, is where the yin and yang comes from. So all of the religions that create this environment all stand for the same thing, peace and unity and harmony, which you can see in the people of Vietnam. So the entire time that we've been in Vietnam, the weather has been absolutely glorious, with temperatures reaching up to 34 degrees and humidity like you can't believe. And now it's just started raining. It's not even the rainy season, though.
This is the Mekong River Delta, and it's one of the most important rivers in the whole of Southeast Asia. It connects 6 countries, 220 kilometers of which are in Vietnam.
The Mekong Delta is known as the Rice Bowl of Vietnam, and it's because the majority of the Earth's rice comes from this region.
Climate change is a huge issue throughout the world, but it's so important in Vietnam because if the sea level rises by as much as a meter, the entire Mekong Delta, as well as the Red River Delta in Hanoi, are going to be completely flooded. What that means is that 85 million people will lose their income and will lose their food.
This is the floating market, and the reason why they're not trading at the moment is either because of the rain or because of the fact that they start trading from as early as 4:30 in the morning. Now, a lot of these people are living on this boat with their whole families. You can often see their little dogs and their hammocks. But the reason for this is because they use this canal to trade upon, because they obviously live very far away. It's incredibly charming. The Mekong River isn't exactly what I would say a must-see. However, on a clear day, even on a rainy day, it was such a pleasant experience. And you also get to see a culture and people living in a way that you've never seen before. So I think on your journey on the boat, if you just take in what's around you, it's really an enjoyable experience.
It's about 6 in the morning and Jeannie and myself have come to check out the local fishermen. This has to be one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life. We're 200 kilometers from Saigon in a place called Moi Ne. And if you look at this, there are just kilometers of sandy beaches, palm trees, colorful fishing boats. This place is heaven.
Being at Moi Ne was the perfect, most idyllic postcard picture. Everything looked perfect, but it smelled like fish. So things like that are best seen in picture. They're basically trying to pick out all the shrimp and prawns between the masses of seafood that they've pulled out of the ocean. However, I'm identifying starfish, crabs. The Vietnamese really do take such pride in their heritage and in their work. You can see that with the way they've prettily painted their little fishing boats. Now, this intricately woven basket is called a coracle, and basically what it does, it's used to transport the fish from the fishing boats to the beach. It fits about 6 local people in it, and I mean, as you can imagine, this has been used for hundreds of years in fishing, and it's still used today, still looking strong.
Wasn't Moses found in one of these?
Yes, a reed basket, very similar. This is made out of bamboo. Hello. Oh, wow. So now that you've collected all the shrimp, what are you going to do with it?
Every morning, you come back here, and these guys of shrimp, some he bring to the market, some he bring to local factories for local people to take a shell off. And then they dry in the sun, they mix with salt and some ingredients to make the dry shrimp and they export to Japan.
Well, you've got a lot of shrimp. Are you hungry, Janez? I'm thinking a little seafood breakfast. Creating a feeding frenzy here.
They're so hungry. This place is so picturesque. You've got this incredible fish pond going onto the rim flow pool, and then in front of you, the South China Sea. In fact, this entire stretch of beach has got resort after resort after resort. You could almost say it's like the Vietnamese version of the French Riviera.
You can either stay in the hotel or in one of these luxurious villas, and the atmosphere of the place is so calming and soothing. Because of the Asian influence, it's very feng shui. Now, the fish have had their breakfast. I think it's about time for us to have ours. I had the dreamiest bath. And when I first looked at it, I thought, okay, this bath is tiled and it looks square, so you wouldn't imagine that you can lie in it comfortably. But it was so nice. I didn't want to get out.
I think those bathrooms are beautiful. I want to put a shower like that in my house because you see, it doesn't have any glass and the water drains into like a little canal with pebbles in it.
I know. I sprayed water around that whole bathroom. It was like one big splash room. Lots of fun.
And the rooms are spacious too.
That king-size bed, I didn't want to get out of it this morning. In fact, I could spend all day at this hotel.
Just tell me something. What is this?
I don't know. When I was dishing up for you, I thought this looked interesting, but I don't know how to eat it, and I don't know what it is.
This has to be the strangest looking cactus I've ever seen. It's actually a dragon fruit plantation in Vietnam. Now it looks like a miniature umbrella with these long tassels and these big pink fruits on it. A cactus usually grows in a desert-like environment. These thrive in tropical weather.
Now, these fruits are indigenous to Vietnam, but what makes them so rare is that they only live for 10 years, only bearing fruit once a year. And I'm pretty sure they're tasty because the color is so rich and pink.
You ready to try some?
Yeah.
Now the technique is to cut them at the stem. Strangest looking fruit I've ever seen. The fruit is indigenous to Vietnam. It's only grown in Nam. It's something you have to taste. You see them everywhere, in the marketplace, at the restaurants, at the hotel. There you go, madame.
Okay. Basically eat it like an orange.
And it's so good for you. It's pure vitamin D.
It tastes like a kiwi fruit. I love exotic fruits. I'm never going to settle for an average apple or banana again in my life.
No matter what anyone says, Vietnam works. People are happy. The unemployment is less than 11%. And people are just doing something. They're happy. They may not be earning top wages. They may not be living in the most luxurious villas, but the country works. It's unified. They stand together. They're the most fascinating, incredible people. This is the incredible Ha Long Bay. There are about 500 boats in the bay, and beyond this bay are almost 2,000 limestone casts. It's the most popular tourist destination in the whole of Vietnam. It's the postcard that you see, but you don't know where it is.